have with us as a guest this evening Linda Mackey from State Historic Preservation Office, who is here for our quadra-annual, I don't know how you would say it, audit for compliance with certified local government requirements.
Okay. So, the meeting is opened, and let us start with Kapoor.
Awesome. I was thinking of bringing dinner, not a step back. So, I think the last time we had, I wasn't here, Can took some feedback. All of that has been incorporated in these drawings. I'm just going to, I think there are 7 copies. Just take one.
Yeah, so we haven't seen the stuff that you dropped off yet. I know
Right.
you dropped it off on
Yeah.
time, but we just it hasn't been circulated yet.
Okay.
Some people may have been in to look at the file. How many sheets are there?
There's 7.
Oh. I mean, how many pages? Are we,
Just one.
okay, so we get those back.
Okay. Why don't you take us through the changes that you're proposing?
Sure. So let me just put this up. So I think more details were asked about the Oreo. Is that how you say it?
Oreo.
Yes.
So
That's what we agree on.
So he went in and specified the materials in there, and then the other main point was about, I think the last meeting there was a conversation about the siding, and right now the current siding is vinyl. So once we do the work, we'll try to stay consistent with what we're putting in the new stuff, and basically replace the vinyl with the new hardy plant.
One thing we talked about with Karen last time was, seeing what's under the vinyl and
Right.
what condition it's in, and
Right.
if there's a possibility for you to save yourself some cash and retain the wood that's under there. But you are changing a lot of openings, so I don't know how realistic that is.
Yeah, we have the windows that are coming in will probably change a lot of the. So I think that's a call we'll have to.
And we discussed if that were an option for you, or you weren't able to do the cementitious board right away. We talked about making sure that you're lining up the boards so that you don't end up with a jagged.
Right. My goal would be to try to do all the work at the same time and sort of be done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that is, the vinyl that we have right now, and given the fact that we are changing and adding windows and a lot of that, I don't know what state we'll be left with the vinyl. So, which is why I've gone ahead with, at least in the plans, and trying to get the estimates and look at the numbers for, with the assumption that I'll have to get new siding there. Then the other one was, you guys had mentioned that the chimney, I think previously did not have a brick veneer, so that has been added in.
I'm sorry, do we have an application?
Folders right here, yep. The referral.
Okay.
One of the other key feedback the last time I was here was about the French doors and the deck. We were going to be having sort of a roof, and the last time I think we were asked to keep it consistent with the stair length, so either the stairs become smaller or the roof kind of. So now it's consistent. It's the same dimensions. What else?
That goes a long way toward balancing that space.
Right.
True.
Yeah, I mean, I think those were the 3 or 4 key things, and then I've brought tear sheets of the French doors. I've got the material for the roof. I've also got the tear sheets for the 400 series double hung windows that are pretty much consistent all through. So those are
So are any of the windows on the front facade changing?
I think we are changing the one on the top, the 2, and I think that was because of the egress.
Oh, the egress, so
Yeah.
those will be getting bigger, not smaller.
Right, right. Right now, they're really small.
Yeah, okay. But, and the positions aren't moving?
No, the positions aren't moving.
Do you see that
So,
photographs?
in-
You've done?
If you, I guess at the minimally, if once all the vinyl is off, even if you were able to retain wood on the front facade, because one of the issues we talked about, one of the issues that we were talking about last week, or last meeting, when you weren't here, was about how we want there to be some sort of delineation between where an addition at an existing building and addition are. And one thing that people do is by using a different siding, mostly because we have a curb siding and people want to use a man-made material.
Mm-hmm.
But because your addition is not going to have a break in the plane from the historic, because essentially you're keeping it the same width, it's not like you're adding it as a separate room.
Right, right.
It would be really, really difficult to do that credibly. You would end up having to cut all the way back until you kind of hit the corner. So I think really the only place where you would be able to do it would be on the front facade.
Mm-hmm.
And if the windows on the front, and obviously this is all assuming that the condition of the width below is usable. I don't know if any of the other members of the
I think
board
there's the
feel one way or the other.
There's a potential for it to end up looking very patched together, with the window modifications, with the number of window modifications and where they are, they're prominent.
On the other facades.
Well, but I thought you were saying that the front facade was where the egress windows were going.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So they're gonna be wider too. Although wider is less of a problem
Wider
than
is less of
smaller.
a problem than smaller. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah. So you'd end up having the Fishkill side, I think what you're saying is you'd end up having the Fishkill side facade, the Fishkill Street facade being the only one that retains
The original.
what's underneath, if it's salvageable
usable.
anyway.
Right. I mean, I think we'll have to see the aesthetics of how that works with, yeah, but then we can.
Also, you'd have to see whether, if you did do that, if the reveal, how that reveal would relate to whatever you were going to be using on all of the other, so the
Right.
thicknesses of the boards themselves. If it's some wacky
Right.
width that's going to look totally screwy with everything
Right.
else, then.
But these drawings show hardy plank on all 4 sides.
They do,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, with the extension going this way, I just don't see how you could.
That's what you're saying, you'd have to take
Yeah.
off
That's
the
the
vinyl
thing,
and
it's
see
not
and see
like-
where it,
Ugh.
because they're going to adjoin.
I mean, unless like you, like Sean was just saying this, but you have some kind of delineation between, but that bumps up against the windows in a weird way.
Well, and also the existing extension, the existing addition that's already been put on the house, I'm sure it doesn't have
Oh, yes.
anything below it either.
Yeah.
So you'd have to be cutting all the way back to the historic part of the house. And the house was expanded
I think,
back first and then
And
back
then-
and sideways, right?
It looks like
Right.
it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it would be, I think the only place where it would even be able to be integrated would be on that front facade.
I think that's right. And also, yes. If that's the only place where you're going to have clean end boards and clean roof line.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't actually mind the concept of leaving that one facade because that is the historic mass.
Mhm.
In fact, I rather like the idea of leaving the clapboard on that side.
Mm-hmm.
But I follow the line of logic on the other facades.
Is there another example of something that I could like look at in terms of, I mean, what I understand is you're trying to preserve the original
Mhm.
some part.
Mhm.
Is there something that I could look at that sort of follows that?
Not that it has it in quite the same configuration, but there are a number of, I think of what we did most recently that has, it's one in Pine Street that has a cementitious board addition, the little, next to the brick on the corner of Parsonage.
The lime green one.
The lime green.
I'll take a look. I mean.
Yeah.
That one may have
what ended
asbestos
up
on the front,
happening
though.
on Kent's house on Fair Street? They
They-
took off the vinyl on the front.
It was aluminum, they
There was-
took it off.
yeah,
And then
and there
they're
was wood below.
Yeah, it was
Beautiful
all
wood
But then
original
what
wood.
happened to the addition?
The addition has
Which you can't even really
a
see from the
narrower,
road,
the
but-
addition has a narrower wood.
That he put new wood on.
I don't remember if that one's new or not. Sorry, we've had so many applications between now and then that I.
Yeah.
All
I
bleeding
can't
into each
remember
other.
what it was either,
But it's apparent when you walk around the village. It's obvious when you're looking at original clapboard sistered with another side.
Right. Sure, I'll definitely.
I mean, for me, that's not a deal breaker. If that ends up, given all of the change on this house that's happening, if it ends up needing to be cementitious board, that's not a deal breaker for me.
No, it isn't for me either, but it would just
It would be nice to
Sure, yeah.
have
know
retain some
what we're
element.
dealing with.
It
You know,
definitely is
I've
sparge
I've
board.
almost sort
It's
of
beautiful.
not touched the vinyl because till we knew what was going on, so we have not really opened it. And to be
Right.
fair, the vinyl is done really well, you know.
Well,
Incredible
clearly,
vinyl.
4 of us sat here in the workshop
We
and
couldn't
thought, wait,
tell.
isn't that wood on that
Right.
building? Yeah,
Yeah, that's
So,
true. I didn't even know.
embarrassingly.
So yeah, I mean, the other big question was about the vestibule in the
Mhm.
back, and I've got some materials that I can show you in the.
Well, and, okay, let's go through, do I have a seeker determination?
I would move that this be classified type 2 because it is a residential modification.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I also.
No, I'm sorry, your vote didn't count.
Okay.
Weren't keeping up with
I
everybody.
wasn't going fast enough.
Yeah. I guess, before we get to the vestibule, how about, does anybody have any other questions or concerning how because your concern really has to do with differentiating the addition. Well, how do you deal with the siding, right? You know, we're not going to continue the vinyl siding. You're talking about the hardy plank. But what you're telling us right now is that the hardy plank is only going to be on the addition
No, it's going to be everywhere.
The application has it covering the entire building, but that's because we don't know what's below the aluminum that's on there right now.
And we suspect-
Regardless, we would have to, really the only place where it would make sense to retain any original woodwork, if it is even usable, would just be on the front facade. Because otherwise you'd have these strange joints hitting, because the second half of the building, the back half of the building is already an addition.
Well, yeah,
And then you're gonna be adding width, length, I don't know, you're gonna be increasing the size sideways of the back wing.
It looks like your corner board is retained on the north elevation, where the addition begins.
Right. Which what are you?
I'm looking
Memorial
here,
side.
Right here, it looks as if the
Yeah.
original corner board is retained. So there's gonna be a break there. But on the other facade, because it's a cross gable, you're not gonna have that same continuation.
And this is actually really small. It's so.
The corner board?
Yeah, it's not a significant.
Which corner board are you referring to?
Well, I think I'm reading it as a corner board here, next to the Oriole window and what looks like the main mass. I'm just thinking that that would be the one place where you're able to delineate where the original structure ended. So if you look at houses that have additions off the back, very often the addition continues, but you
Right.
still see that end board
Right.
of the original mass. So you can I mean, you're going to recognize it in the roof line because it looks like you have a roof line shift.
Right.
But retaining some sort of board there is going to show us where the original house ended.
And what do you mean by the original board, as in the wood?
Probably underneath that vinyl, there's a
Yeah.
corner board, and if not, that's something that you would be able to include. So you would have sort of a pause there before the addition continues. It looks like it's in a separate plane. Is it in a
But,
separate plane?
yeah, but then would it be a little bit wacky to,
It's also not visible, right? Like,
The
It's
roof
not going to
line
be
looks
wide,
like.
it's not going to be largely visible, but if you're standing on the end of Fishkill, you see back to here. I mean, that kind of continuation happens all over the village, where a house, you know, they were trying to maximize the use of square footage.
Right.
So rather than dipping in, they would continue off that same corner.
Right.
And you often pick it out by the retention of
I-
that corner board.
I see the roof line, see how it changes there, there's a gutter there.
Maybe that's
A
what
leader
leads
that
the
goes,
drawing.
that goes down, so I wonder, is it
a gutter?
Yeah.
I guess the question is that
Maybe.
I'm having a hard time determining what is
If there is a
existing
gutter
and what
there,
isn't.
then those are the roof
okay.
lines.
Because-
So I think he's marked
Changes.
existing and addition in each of the elevation.
Okay,
So-
for example, here's my question.
Sure.
Is this portion existing?
No.
This is new.
Yeah.
So essentially, what I'm looking at here,
So,
for
yeah.
example, where would this mass end?
So this mass goes in over here, and the addition comes out over here.
Well, the addition is perpendicular.
Right.
Right, which is this, you know, that's fairly clear. But I guess as far as the original,
That goes all the way up to here.
right, up to the chimney, so
I think
this
in the
this is
application
all
there's-
original, right?
Yeah. Yes.
yeah, there was a original conditions elevation drawn in the folder. It might be huge.
Do you have it in plan view?
Proposed.
I don't think we actually ever had existing conditions in elevation.
Because to me, it's really not that clear. I'm trying to understand. So, for example, the existing house sort of is like this, and you're adding all of this.
Right, so the existing house ends, comes over here.
Right.
So this is what's adding. So it's marked over here as a new addition. In each of the.
I know, but see, it's kind of hard to understand. It's identifying, you know, the ridge line.
Right.
But in fact, all of this is all existing.
Right. Yeah.
And in fact, so we're going from these 4 windows to this.
From these 4 windows.
These
to-
four-
yeah,
these-
Yeah.
And this is all new.
That's right.
So certainly, one of the things is we need to have clear identification of what is, you know, what's existing. And I guess going back to the issue about what is, you know, a separation between what is being added and what is existing. certainly, if this had been set back, maybe a foot or something like that, you can have, then it becomes clear that this is the part that is being added. I think that's,
Can you say
to
it
me-
again? Because that's going in another, it's going in another direction.
right, this is, if you look at this, this facade is this. So obviously, there is a structure which is being added perpendicular to this. But this portion of the building is still being retained, because you have the chimney and you have this, and that's all this.
Right.
I don't know that you gain a better understanding of an addition by, you're talking about starting the addition in off the corner?
Yes.
I mean, I think it's gonna be obvious that it's an addition anyway, from the window pattern.
Well,
And the
not
roof
really.
line.
And the
Well,
roof line, I mean, I think the space the square footage is at a premium here for them, and what you lose in doing that doesn't, to me, it isn't worth what you gain in understanding. Because I think it's going to look like an addition, period.
Well, but how would you know that, I mean, if it's all clad in hardy plank?
Because of the window configuration.
Well, how is this different from these here?
Because it's different from every other
These are not
facade. The other
existing.
facades mostly retain the symmetry.
There's a
No.
separate symmetry on the addition from the symmetry on the existing main house. You see the existing main house has its own symmetry, and this addition has its own symmetry. So it's,
I don't think anybody would mistake
I think
it
there's
for-
a certain clarity
Yeah.
already there.
Well, I happen to disagree. I think that basically, once the siding is on, it's all going to look the same. And these are all new windows, and every window on this facade is new. So how would you know that this is
The
part
windows
of...
that are there now are a mix of replacement windows, and that doesn't communicate.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't replace the windows. All I'm saying is that you're telling me that I can look at this facade and I wouldn't see that, I would automatically know that this is an addition, which I don't see that, because there's no differentiation between this and this.
So if you look on that block of Fishkill, that block has got probably 4 or 5 in a row of these little sort of Queen Anne cottages. They all have a similar mass. They all have similar roof line and window configuration. You read them. This
These
is the
windows?
original. No, I'm talking about the primary facades, right? So this, to me,
Well, this is
you're going to be able to read this
Yeah, that's the
as a
rear
member
facade.
of
That's
that
the rear
set.
facade.
This is obviously not, that massing, because of the way it comes off the roof, that obviously reads as an addition. You're still gonna read that sweet little Queen Anne on
And
the
This is
front.
the
the
front
addition's
facade.
pushed back
And the
away from
addition's way
the
back from
original facade, so it,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the
pushed
way-
back from the front, I agree that it's pushed back
Yeah.
from the front, but what I'm saying is that, I don't see the differentiation between the original mass and the addition.
on this is elevation.
So do you see?
Well, I mean, if you look at it, well, I think that once you see these windows, then obviously there's no, that's not retaining any of the patterns that we have seen before, so, to me, this looks like a long expanse of a wall.
So if you, would you see any alternative to remedy the problem you see, other than setting the addition in on that mass?
Well, I think in other projects, what we've done is we've put a corner board, retained the corner board,
Mhm.
but the problem is then the vestibule.
I think the other general problem we have is that the scale, the footprint of this house is really small.
Yeah.
So, we lose tremendously by even making minor
Right.
changes. I mean, what we try to do is try to work with a really small footprint, given the strange structure of that plot of land, and given the fact that it's exposed from all sides. So
Yeah.
literally we have
Mhm.
nowhere, we don't have a side that's not exposed.
What if like on my house, we had a similar issue where it was just too much
wall.
Yeah, it was too much of a wall. And I broke it up horizontally, but what if we had a board come down just to here, if you just break up this visual mass here,
With a corner
and have
board
it,
like-
have it
yeah.
truncate over the transom, I think I'm looking at a transom window.
One second,
That's the roof of the vestibule.
Oh, that's the roof, okay, I'm sorry, I can't see. But what if you had it, just terminate there at the roof, then that makes it clear, it carries this line down to the ground, and it makes it clear that, these are the lines of the original structure.
My feeling is that the primary facade of this building is the east elevation, which is facing Fishkill Avenue. The south and the north elevations are the secondary, and this west elevation, while technically visible in the round, is so minor and
already modified.
already modified that it's beating a dead horse.
Well, what's modified?
Hmm?
You said it's modified.
Doesn't that?
That's this elevation there.
Well, no, it's already been extended.
You're talking about this
Mhm.
shape over here is what was pushed back.
Mhm.
And you can see the way they added it, they did set it in.
That might have been just because of framing.
When I look at the photograph.
I mean,
Is it set in on the south elevation?
No, it's not. It's not
No.
set.
What's
This
that?
is the south
Like, this is
elevation, and
the
yes,
south.
it is
You
set in
mean-
a little bit.
This is south.
So this one.
the north elevation, we couldn't tell, but it looks like there's a slight change in the roof
Well, this is the
line.
more public side anyway.
Yeah.
Here, pass that
Yeah.
to
You
Sean.
can't even get a good picture
Yeah,
of
the south
north
elevation and the east elevation are the most prominent elevations. The north and the west are the least, and the west is in fact the least of all.
And that's what's being modified, what Sean has in his hand is what's being modified by the cross gable.
I'm also thinking of a lot of examples that we have. I mean, the rear of the structure is more utilitarian in nature. I'm thinking of a lot of examples where back of the house is more contemporary, more user friendly. I would like to say than front is what is presented to the public. It's what represents the original structure, I think, the most. And, thinking like the Cupper's house on Paulding Ave.
The rear of the Cupper's house, though, is much less visible than.
That's true.
Well,
I don't disagree with you, but.
And
Just
the
thinking
thing,
about it,
yeah.
and the thing is that the north elevation does have a setback. I mean, it's shown on this, and you can see it in the photograph.
Yeah, it is a slight setback.
Yeah.
So
Essentially, the addition that was added was reduced, and that was extended.
So, in your mind, given that the new addition is proposed to be larger to accommodate interior needs, do you think that the corner board, the sort of representation of a corner board that Andrea is talking about mitigates the?
Yeah, it certainly mitigates it. I think it would probably be more effective as far as delineating the mass of the addition if there was a setback, but, I'd be willing to accept, just a corner board.
It's hard because this house, the proportions of this house really restrict what you can do.
And the proportions of the site as well, because
Right.
it's a small lot as well.
Yeah.
And you also don't want the setback to be so minimal that it looks like an error
Yeah.
and not
That's my
intentional.
concern. And the thing with this view here is, I've taken it from the backyard, which is not visible from the street. This is not by the house. So I
Yeah.
literally was in.
Yeah, you have to
the
be in your
backyard to
yard.
get
Yeah.
this picture. So even if you do stuff here, it's not going to be visible. This is probably the least visible. of
Well,
all.
it's always going to be, to the public, it's always going to be visible at an angle from that parking
Right.
lot.
Yeah.
From the.
My concern with it is it could look like an error. After we've added the windows, and if you look at the geometry of how we're adding the vestibule there, I think that the front, which is the east elevation, and what we can do to sort of preserve this part is totally, I'm very open to exploring that and.
Well, the only thing that you're doing on the east elevation is really just changing the two windows.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, it's my opinion.
Okay, I have some other questions regarding other details on the plan, on the elevations here. It's drawn as new wood frame chimney with brick veneer.
Right.
A wood frame chimney?
Apparently there was a metal,
There's a flue there.
They're bringing up
Oh,
a
so
metal
they're,
float.
so they're
Boxing it in.
boxing it in,
Yeah.
okay. And brick veneer, and you also show brick veneer on the,
foundation.
on the foundations, on the extension of the house.
Right.
Now, is that, what is the nature of that brick veneer? Is it a tile, is it a,
How thick is it?
yeah, how thick is it? Do you have any
No, I
pictures on
don't.
The concern that Carolyn's raising is the durability of a tile versus a,
Yeah, it needs to be a full brick as opposed to.
well, we
a
have
brick
recently,
tile.
in the locally listed area of the district, we have approved,
A brick tile, as long as
Brick
they're
tiles.
individually set tiles and not.
Right.
like on
sheets.
239
Okay.
sheets thicker.
Yeah, not sheets, yeah, exactly.
Individually set tiles?
Yeah.
Well,
On Reeves and DeFranco, we did that. We allowed
Okay,
that.
but I.
And didn't we
yeah.
do that, didn't
We
we
did it one other
reconsider that
location as
on,
well. But I can't remember.
I know,
what it was.
On
but we're
Highway.
talking about, you
Here.
know, it's a mini brick. In other
Say we're
words-
like half bricks or.
Right.
Right.
But not a
Stone
tile.
Street. Correct, not
No,
a
a tile is like really thin,
Tile is
yeah.
really thin.
We were referring to it as a tile as opposed to a sheet. That's why we were calling it a tile. They brought in a sample that we
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah.
So what's the?
And we were, if I remember correctly, we approved it with the condition of, let's see how long it lasts.
Yeah. Right now, it actually looks really good. I did notice that the
I
other
think it's-
day.
I think that's
But
a
we will
very
see how long it
successful,
lasts.
it's a
Let's see
successful
after a couple of
transition.
years, see how
Okay,
long
okay,
it
okay,
lasts.
okay.
That was new construction.
Yes.
Um,
Which
Well,
elements of this will be as well.
Yeah.
And then the door details, do you have cut sheets on the French doors or sliding doors on the new porch and on the vestibule?
The front door is not changing.
I know the front door is not changing.
Yeah, so these are set of 6.
I think these are in-swing.
These are just part of the 400 series. That's the, so keeping consistent with.
Okay.
And then this is, obviously, so these are all, they have to be custom designed. So this is for material and so the glazing details are on it. So that's just the company that makes that based on the drawing.
Now, is it clear glass or is it?
No,
like-
it's, I've got the details on the glazing as well. So that's the
It's a
most,
polycarbonate.
so it's got the best rate, if you just give me that sheet. That sheet.
But is it clear or is it?
It's clear, yes.
Colored? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's got the highest R value and this is recommended for heating purposes as the most efficient too.
Yeah, we're most concerned about tinting, that it not be.
All right. I guess let's talk about the window. Anybody have any issues as far as the windows
And they are made of natural pine. Oh, that's the
go?
interior.
Well, this is a clad window,
And
right?
this is a more detailed.
What's it clad with?
It is clad
The
with.
vinyl cover, okay. It's a vinyl
Tough
clad on the
vinyl,
outside.
tough
Tough vinyl cover with a natural pine interior. Or a white, dark bronze, or black. Well, we don't care what the interior is. Okay, and the patio doors are tough vinyl cover.
And we are just making sure that this is locally listed, right?
Do you know what the finish is on the aluminum frame? Not the color, but the finish. Is it like bright and shiny like chrome?
It's matte.
It's matte.
That's what I spoke to them and
Okay, it's a matte, it's a
right,
matte,
yeah,
it's a
matte
matte
finish,
finish.
yeah.
Okay.
This greenhouse is beautiful.
Dinesh, I'm wondering why
I know
you're
you want one now
considering, you're being very thoughtful in your material choices. I'm wondering why you're looking at vinyl versus aluminum cladding when you're going to have this fantastic aluminum structure on the back,
Vinyl
on the
versus-
windows.
Aluminum.
Uh,
The
vinyl
exterior of the windows and the doors are clad in vinyl.
rather than aluminum. I mean, in this portion of the
Right.
historic district, for old reasons and reasons that will probably not be part of the new standards, this vinyl clad is allowable in this portion of the district.
Right.
I'm asking, and that's what your architect is proposing.
Right.
I'm asking, you've been very thoughtful about this aluminum structure on the back and about choosing
So-
quality materials. Otherwise, what makes you want to choose the vinyl
So
clad there?
I think it's maintenance and cost.
And
Yeah.
did you look at aluminum as an option?
I did, and 400 series was what I understood is accepted. So I went with something that I knew has been used by.
That's the structure of the window, but the clad, you have some options for cladding.
Right. Maintenance, I guess.
I mean, it is an allowable material. My thought is that this is gonna be, your rear facade is now going to become a really interesting facade because it's on a public parking lot, and you're bringing in a design element, and this design element is aluminum. And my own view is that there may be discordance with the vinyl and the aluminum. Because you're making such an effort
Once
here.
that's painted, you won't know what material that is.
So you're painting the metal on this?
It comes in color, so we choose the color based on.
But it's still
yeah.
going to read as a fake metal finish. Throwing that out, other people may feel differently about it. And it's not, obviously, it's an
Right.
allowable material, I'm just talking about it with you.
I think unless the intention is for them to match in color, which would be only up to the homeowners themselves, I am less concerned about them matching in material. I would prefer aluminum because it looks nice, but I don't really know, unless the design intent is for the aluminum vestibule and the windows to all be treated in the same material, same finish.
There's also a question of how they're going to age. Right,
Yeah.
that element is gonna age quite differently than the trim. Right, your eye is getting drawn to a glass element that's trimmed in metal, and that they're gonna age differently than the glass elements trimmed in vinyl.
That's true, but if he was proposing to put in all windows made out of wood and a vestibule made out of aluminum, we would very enthusiastically accept the wood windows, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Excellent.
Well, I guess the question I have is that,
No,
are we
that
getting
is-
the Gothic?
No, the thing is that they custom make all of these pieces, so.
So the shape
this
is what's
is-
reflected in the drawing.
Right.
And the ceiling as well is going to be glass.
Yes.
And the openable windows in that area are casements?
The openable windows in this area.
No,
over
on the sides, here, and here.
They make the whole structure, so,
Because some of the windows seem fixed and some of them seem potentially openable.
They look like French windows.
That's
Oh,
probably-
no, there's a bar in the middle. Yeah, they do look like
See,
two.
right over, right over here,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah,
because
there are two windows
these are
that.
different from, like, if you look at the north elevation, see this window?
right.
These look like they're hung closer to the structure, they appear to be fixed.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know why they would
probably-
draw them
Yeah,
differently
so
if
this,
they
this was
weren't.
drawn, and I got this information.
I
following
think
the
these look
drawing.
good, yeah. Because this is a freestanding greenhouse, which serves a very different purpose from a
Right.
house. You want ventilation in there, you're
Right.
gonna
Well, it's
fry.
not just ventilation, it's also the access to the basement because of the plan.
Oh, that's right, yep, yep,
Remember,
yep.
the only
Yeah.
access
Yep.
to the basement was
Yeah.
now through
Yeah,
here.
these, I'll bet
Back
you these
area.
move.
It's the laundry passage.
Yeah.
I guess the other question I would have is that, why is it so big? I mean, I'm looking at the image of the hatch to the basement, and it's well within the original wall, but yet this extends another panel.
So what we have is we have access door that leads up into the kitchen, and then space to go down. So those are the dimensions for it.
There has to be some circulation around the actual stairs.
Yeah, but you said that there's going to be stairs going up to the kitchen?
Yeah. So basically, this becomes an entrance over here.
Don't we have a plan in here? I
Yeah.
thought we sent
In
in
the
plans.
folder, or there was, in
Yeah,
workshop.
there was.
May have been.
I would say that the larger plan.
Yeah.
the last one.
Is there another
Sure,
folder
somebody's
in
having
here?
it.
It's probably a colored folder.
The colored folder got transferred to that folder, just because it, so it would hang.
But I thought these stairs, these doors went into the kitchen.
No, those go into the main living space.
Because the kitchen's back here. For the 3 double hungs.
I don't have a problem with the size of it. Because again, it's utility area.
Well, I guess are there any windows here also? I mean, there's an existing window. Is that going to be retained or is that going to be blocked out?
That's where the door would go.
Karen took the large size, and left us, because we're trying to reduce the,
That's right.
we're trying to reduce the
We
big
asked to
items
have
we have. She took
those.
And when the village refers or rejects the application, they don't give you the plan? Because that has
Yeah.
all the details.
The building permit application is separate and is in
Got it.
the building, we're not yet, the village is not, unfortunately, at a stage where this is electronic, it would be
Right.
ideal, but we're
Yeah.
not there yet. So what gets turned into the building inspector, we get his front cover and the referral, but the supporting
I could pull
documentation
up,
is upstairs.
I might have an electronic if that helps.
What's the question?
Well, the question is the width of
No,
this.
where the bill coat covering is now, that's only this width here, okay? See where that little ledge is there? Okay, that's here. But to get around it in an enclosure, you have to have space in front of it. to get
I'm
in
not
there.
concerned about how far it projects, I'm concerned with
The height?
the width.
The width.
Well, the width has to do with, there's one width for the Bilco stairs going down, and there's another width for like a couple of stairs going up into the kitchen.
All right, well, I didn't know that there were
I
stairs.
wouldn't want to see it more
Well, there's-
narrow.
Well, yeah, but if you saw the plans, you'd know.
I mean,
And the
you're
doors
saying you would
the
like,
doors are gonna be swinging in
you
as
wonder
well.
why it's not falling in line with this.
Yeah,
the
because I
roof
mean, the
bit
Bilko
edge.
door is
Yeah.
set within
Yeah.
that existing facade.
I think you just wouldn't have enough room to move around.
It's also got a different function. I mean, it's called
Yeah.
a vestibule because it's an entry, and I imagine you're gonna be,
You also have a
Dropping
door
boots
swing in
and-
there.
Yeah, it's much.
Well, the door swings out, I would assume.
I don't know if that's true because it's an entry door. It's not a
So
screen
this
door.
is, I'm just checking my reference.
And also, there's nothing covering the top of it, so you want it to swing
So the
out.
dimensions are over here.
Yeah, we need room to get around.
So essentially, it's, door swings in, so what you're looking at is the full enclosure. And all of this is going to be aluminum?
So this is, yeah, all these things, the framing is going to be aluminum and this is glass. And then the roof is.
And it's set on brick.
Brick veneer.
tile, not veneer.
Time.
Optical brick.
Optical brick.
Is that a term of art?
It is now.
Yeah, it's an optical plate.
I don't want us to rush, but I do want us to be mindful of time.
Mhm,
It's
okay.
8:50.
The west elevation seems like it just, a lot of windows, and certainly doesn't seem like it matches the other facades. It's,
Well, think about Sandland on High Street. We looked at, there are a couple of elements of this that are similar to that proposal, and that's the Oriole window.
well, I'm not concerned about the
No, hang on, let me get there.
Okay.
So A, B, 1, 2, the back the facade of that building, which is visible from the public right-of-way on Church Street, was modified quite dramatically with window, with the same goal that I think this applicant has, you can correct me if I'm wrong, to get light inside one of our classic Lee Village houses.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of, it's not exactly the same, but that's an example of a house that's visible on multiple facades from multiple streets, and we found a way to be comfortable with a lot of glass on the back because it was a secondary facade.
And we also have a lot of glass on the back of Ann's house on High Street. and-
on the High
and your-
Street
and your
example.
house.
Yeah.
And the Hudson
Yeah.
House.
And,
Soon to be-
oh yeah, my house.
Not that, but.
Well,
yeah,
it's-
right.
It's,
The big challenge for us is being that every side is
It's
exposed.
visible, yeah.
So we basically have no, and the north elevation, if you look at the drawings, there's absolutely no place to go there.
Right, you're right in your property line.
All right, well, I understand that. It just that, I mean, if you look at all of the other windows, it looks like it fits into this sort of house. But then, these windows here, all of a sudden.
Is it these like transom looking ones that
These
bother
are-
you?
and they
Because if
don't-
you eliminate that, that looks much more like
Yeah.
what's going on.
Agreed.
But this
And-
is
and-
also the side which has the best view
Yeah.
towards Monmouth.
I know, but I mean, are you really going to be able to see out of this window?
I hope so.
I think you will. I mean, okay.
If you're lying down, you know.
When you
If
have
you're
a house that's really narrow, like, I mean, I think it's also worth considering the practicality of like, I mean, we added this Oriole because they didn't have enough headroom.
Mhm.
We're adding windows because there's not enough natural light coming in.
25 High Street also has windows like this on the back side. It's bigger, but it's a similar mass in the original house, and it has a big addition on the back and lots of light. I am given other reviews in the district, I am comfortable with this back facade having a higher degree of modification, so that it can achieve more light inside. I think you can still read the original mass.
And it has a lesser degree of visibility from the street. I mean, the other three facades are quite visible, but this one is not. I mean, yeah, it's technically visible, but it's not really hugely visible.
And I think also your eye is going to be drawn to, when we were talking about materials, this is going to be a design element that's going to draw your eye. The eye is going to have many things to look at, and I think overall, it's going to read as an attempt to bring in light.
Okay, but if you look at the original house as it is, the windows that we had there, I mean,
It's
there are
not the
hell.
original
But
house,
this is
it's
an
addition
addition.
already.
I know, but I'm talking about the house as it is now. I think that the number of windows and the sizes of the windows are increasing on every facade. That, I mean, this bank of 3 windows and bank of 3 windows, this is going to be a very bright, it's a
The
living room.
original mass retains the window pattern, right? This
Okay.
is a very different plane over here. You're gonna still experience the primary portion of the house in its original proportions.
I don't buy it.
Okay, so what we need to do if we're not gonna get consensus, because it's almost 9 o'clock.
Well, it's I mean, that's my opinion. I've heard other people express opinions. We can.
Why don't we
sit-
just vote?
Yeah. And so, I guess does anybody want to propose some modifications to the plans?
I just have two things to address. One is, on the west and east elevations, you have these, ornamental rake boards that are existing.
Right.
That are both being retained. The one on the front's also being retained, is that correct?
That's right.
It's not listed, but we'll note that. On the south elevation, because you're adding the addition and you're adding this new rake board, I would not be inclined to, it says that they'll have applied ornamental trim to match the existing rake boards. I would prefer to not have
So that it
ornaments
looks different.
added to it. Don't know how
Yeah,
anyone
well,
else
the
feels
rake
about
board
that.
right now does not have any ornamentation on it, on the rear, on the west elevation.
That would be tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, on the, oh, there is no, it's not on the west?
Here, just look at these.
Either?
No.
Oh, so it
Yeah,
must
the
just be on the
photograph.
east then?
No.
Oh, so maybe this,
Yeah, it looks like it's just on the front.
okay.
Yeah, it's only on the front. The rest of it
Yeah.
is,
Got subsumed by the addition.
Yeah, the big-
This one?
Solid feature, so.
And the other issue as
No.
well is the ganged windows. It looks like they're ganged without any structure in between them. This is something that we talked with Fortier about
Mhm.
last, I don't know how we met, when
We
was
also
that?
talked with Karen about it. You're talking about the south and the west, right?
On the south and the
west. Yeah.
and I guess on the north too, but are these two windows already existing, or are these?
No,
No,
they're,
those-
they're new.
They're to be added, yeah. So the first thing you'd have to do is just review which of these windows are considered to be egress windows, wherein there, if any of these ganged windows have to be, which it doesn't look like they would be, if I remember your floor plan correctly, but, yeah, we just talked about having instead of having the windows butted right up to each other, having them have
A member.
yes, some piece of trim in between them, so even if it's not structural, it has the appearance of being structural.
Okay.
It's how
Yeah, when they manufacture the
windows were made for
they
a
can
very long
keep
time.
that in. Yeah.
For clarity, we are determining readiness for public hearing
Oh,
this evening?
yeah, I was gonna ask that. I guess,
think we should
does
vote
the
on that,
board
yeah,
think
okay.
that this needs to go to a public hearing?
That's what we discussed during the
Yes.
meeting
I
because of the
think it
scale.
does.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Because we talked to Karen about the talked to your wife about the 24th,
Great for the
about the
minute.
25th being the earliest.
okay, so we need to go to a public hearing, and what I would request, all right, you've got a couple of things that Sean mentioned about, well, the rake board is a dead issue, because we're not gonna, the only place where it has ornamentation is really on the front. right?
Yeah, I just went, it says on the south elevation that
I'll
they're
just
gonna
take
be
it out.
adding
Yeah,
ornamentation,
yeah.
so I just wanna make
Right.
sure that was
Yeah.
struck.
Okay. And then we're talking about putting, a stud between each of the windows as opposed to, putting the casings together.
Right.
Do you want to say anything about the aluminum enclosure?
What do you mean, say that as
Well, I mean, basically, this is sort of the last opportunity to.
I'm fine with it as proposed.
No problem.
Okay, so, are there any other comments then?
No.
And the other thing which I would like for you to clarify is, when you say brick veneer, exactly what that is.
Yeah.
But maybe you can bring samples as well.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, so, public hearing on the 24th?
So I move that the application is ready for public hearing. We have 2 advertising cycles under the current ordinance that puts us on the 24th, the night of our workshop. So we'll do
Okay.
public hearing
Perfect.
first.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so, public hearing The village is gonna hit you up for some more money. But
So.
welcome to the new.
So Mary Sari, the village clerk, and perhaps Tom, who's working with the boards now, will give you instructions for how to notify your neighbors,
Got it.
get your legal notices out. But you should connect to her soon so that happens in time. And then it'll be advertised.
Actually, what I would suggest is that you gather up these cuts, because we would take the vote at the public hearing, and it's probably safer in your possession rather than
Okay.
trusting
And
it to
keep
us.
one set.
Yeah, we'll keep one set.
And each door has a colored thing added to it.
Colored thing.
Oh, yeah, this thing.
So here's a
The door
marked.
thing and the window thing, both things.
All right.
It's marked with submission date, so we know what came in when.
All right. This is
That
another
was our
window.
file.
It's yours. Images we keep.
Oh, and maybe you guys should bring a copy of the
The original?
plan,
Right.
but in this size.
Okay.
So that way you don't have to print it.
Yeah.
We don't want that in our file.
And as you're talking to whoever's doing your drawings, if there's an opportunity for them to better illustrate on the drawing what existing, with a dashed line, what
Okay.
the existing structure
Yes,
is.
a heavy dash line so that we.
This one is for you, right? This is yours?
Yeah,
This is-
ours.
yes.
Cool.
All right.
See you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You want any of these?
I think I'm good. These are for you, right?
Yes. These are
Do you
our
need it?
respective
I can
ones.
take them back to you.
We're good.
All right, see you on the
Thank you.
24th.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye. Okay, 7 Market. Curly Egan's. No baby this time. Too
Yes.
late
I
for the
think I
baby.
saw
Oh, she's
baby.
there.
I
She's
just confirmed it.
asleep. Wow.
So,
Probably not the only one in the audience.
Hopefully for the.
Hi.
Hi.
Did you have some updated?
Before we do that, let me just put this back in the folder and give it to Kathleen.
Let me give you theirs. So same
Thank you.
process that Dinesh just went through is determination of, are we doing a determination of public hearing tonight? I'm asking about the same.
Have we,
On this one?
have we determined a secret?
Nope, but I will move, type 2 as it is a residential modification.
I will
Thank you.
move that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, James, tell us what you're proposing to do.
And I don't have it in front of me yet. Is it coming my way?
So,
Wait, I think I messed it up.
Oh, fine.
I shuffled everything the wrong way. Okay.
It's good.
more or less,
All
I
right,
mean,
thanks.
how would you prefer, just to sort of
Well,
officially go over what we would.
what you're
unofficially-
proposing, yeah. Go over what you want us to approve.
So the official proposal is that, I mean, we're moving in 2 steps, or sort of 2 larger pieces. First is adding an HDRB at the house, which, let's see, maybe easier to describe this with a visual. So in the, we'll just go with, I mean, contrasting the existing with what is being proposed. So on the southwestern side, we're proposing to add above what is presently the kitchen, actually we'll just continue the kitchen on the back of the house, which the actual shape of it would be I think it's called a reverse data. You know, correctly, yeah, the roof. That will be aligned with the present, I mean, the height of it will actually be aligned, it won't go any higher than the height of the roof that is proposal. Yeah, we're so terrified of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, so that'll require bringing the chimney up, that's on the back of the house. The bigger chimney that goes to the corners. And also, adding, can you see on that facade, the southwest facade? So changing pretty much the entirety of the window structure. So, on the ground floor, what looks like, you know, a newer existing window reorganization, it looks like a dedication, but it's actually a slider. So changing that to a triple casement window, and then above that, having similarly, like the same width triple casement window that's slightly taller, and then I guess what's north of that. So to the left of those windows, adding two windows. We talked about last time, one of them fits between the bathroom and the chimney. The other one is in the bathroom, that leads into the bathroom.
But changing the orientation of those windows, I have to give hats off to Al, that makes a tremendous difference on that back side.
Yeah, it looks like it makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first piece. And then, but yeah, matching between those windows to what's existing on the front. And then the second piece is really refurbishing what exists to the structure, which is assuming that much plans. So the first is replacing the entire roof with asphalt shingles. Maybe this picture, yeah, the big maps picture. That's still in German. So yeah, please. So replacing the top of the entire roof with asphalt shingles. Adding an eave, we'd like to add a 6-inch eave to the entire roof, actually.
So you're raising it?
Not raising it, it's going to be hanging over there.
Oh, I see.
Adding to the eave.
Yeah,
Adding to the
okay.
eave. And that was suggested to us by the contractor, just as a reason, trying to preserve the siding a little more.
So you're
But that's
more
a little bit
reserved,
flexible.
yeah.
I was looking at other houses in the neighborhood that have eaves, and it looks like they're not too, like, you know, different pieces of them.
What's the pitch that you have on this?
It's low,
Yeah.
as you can see. I don't have the exact pitch.
Well, because asphalt shingle manufacturers don't recommend shingles on a pitch
Yeah.
less than 3 on 12.
Right. So, yeah.
Are you thinking about the backside?
Yeah, on the backside, on the
Yeah.
addition.
But I can see why you did that, because you want height.
And trying not to lose
I thought
the
this.
existing
Yeah.
village.
Mhm.
Plus, just trying to meet code
Mm-hmm.
for the new rooms. Already the corners come down to 6'6", we'd like to have 7'6" where we can. So I don't, and this was something that, so we're in conversation with, and we're not through the narrative, but in conversation with Larry and the designer about, I don't know, I don't know how much wiggle room there is for the roof line to come up.
Well, I think one of the things that you need to think about is the roofing material. I think that I've seen instances where they've put ice and water shield underneath, and they felt comfortable with that. But I think that your roofing, the shingle manufacturer won't give you a warranty on your roof.
Right.
Yeah, this is about 1 in 5 have 3 and 12, certainly. I mean, it can be done, but it's, it would require a different type of material.
What would the other types of materials be?
Well, I mean, with something that flat, you're talking about a membrane of some sort.
Or rolled roofing. So, Al, are you talking about these two slopes?
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were also, because we're coming off the ridge line, I didn't know if you meant these portions.
No, for
Because-
example, I would assume that this is the same as that, and that looks like 3-on-12. And where's this one? Just,
Although the pitch of the front will, if they are gonna be, not significant, but if they are gonna be extending it out 6 inches, it's gonna slightly.
Do you want us to
Decrease
approve
the
roofing
pitch.
material
No, it won't
tonight?
decrease the pitch. The
Or
pitch will stay
at
the
the
same.
public
Talk about
The
hearing,
angle stays
excuse
the
me.
same.
I mean, is that something that that's a
Think about
priority
it.
for you, to get
You're
the
not gonna
roof straight?
put it out
Outside.
there.
I guess the question
No, I'm
I'm,
saying if they wanna have at the public, I'm trying to,
Right.
But if they
at
want
the public
to-
hearing, is that something you want us to approve?
Oh, and well,
So
yes,
otherwise we're
I guess
looking at talking about
throw
that.
that out.
Yeah, that's right.
You're right.
I mean,
But you're right,
the
because
proportion
part of
stays the
the
same.
underlying question also is something that I have not, maybe we should have raised in the workshop, was whether if the actual roof line can come up 6 inches or 8 inches. I know that makes one wary,
I
assume.
I think changing the roof line would change the front facade,
Yeah.
which is probably your primary facade.
Yeah.
Particularly in such a small building.
Sure.
It would be pretty dramatic.
Okay.
Can I play devil's advocate and ask a question? So how different do we think this is from the cottage on Parsonage Street, the Boisvert cottage that was raised, just 5 inches? I don't remember exactly how much, but a bit, to give them some more headroom.
No, I don't think it was raised.
Oh,
was
they
raised at
proposed
all.
it, and then they accomplished coming out the back, that's right.
That's right. They
Sorry,
didn't do it,
I'm
no.
remembering the initial discussion.
But we
I think
discussed
the
that.
city has been too devilish.
Say that again? Too devilish?
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to think through other examples, but you're right, we did go away from that.
I know we've only considered, we are only in the process of considering one other.
Okay. Well, we're open to, I mean, I don't know if we're open to approve roofing material, but, we actually runs.
Well, the thing is that
Because then we-
we're going to a public hearing on this, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, I would think that
you
the
have
vote is
until the
vote.
24th to decide whether you want to include the roofing or not.
Right.
Right, okay.
I mean, there are options. I would talk to your contractor, roofing contractor, and see, what he suggests. I guess the question I have to the board members is that due to its location and, I don't know how much you can actually see. I mean, we
That's the whole
have a
thing.
problem.
That's the whole thing. So the lot behind this is the,
I know, it's lost.
it's the Lusk lot that's open all the way. So when you stand on New Street, you do see all of it.
I know, but would you see the roof?
Yeah.
Would you see the roofing itself, or would you just see the roof line?
You wouldn't see it as clearly as, you'd see it, but how much detail?
Well, I mean,
Well, it depends on how high up you are. I mean, if you're walking down the street or sitting in a car
Mhm.
and looking up at that, you're not going to see the roofing material, you're going to see the roof line.
Are you concerned about the visibility of a rolled material? I don't know.
well,
what's
not
the-
necessarily roll material.
Or
I
Fine,
think-
membrane.
is not necessarily rolled material. I mean, it's rolled.
I'm sorry, membrane.
It comes in a rolled form.
Is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a pitch which is relatively flat, and typically the way that's handled is with
I would rather.
EPDM or something like that.
Mhm.
I would rather defer to the mass of this worker cottage and accept a membrane roof on an addition than look at possibilities of changing the mass of the cottage.
I'm looking at our guidelines, and I don't see anything about restrictions on
Well,
I mean, you can't paint slate.
EPDM
okay.
is not exactly
It's not in
historic
there.
precedent.
Yeah, I know it's not. But this is the problem. This is why these are getting updated.
Thank you for checking.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Can you get
I would rather
historic
see a membrane
EPDM?
roof than a dramatic change in roof line.
I'd rather see a house with a roof that doesn't leak than one that has leaks and then
Yeah, and the
creates other
structure gets
problems with the
destroyed.
structure.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think that you have come so far in the design on the rear. What goes away is this strangely massive chimney on the back.
Right.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
there, but it's encased, so it's not as obvious and it's stick-outy, which is a technical term. You've balanced out the back facade. You've retained your roof line. Now, for you as a tall person, that's something of a challenge in the front portion of the house. It's also one of the charms of these worker cottages. There were probably tall guys working in the Foundry too. So I feel like having to look at rolled roofing is a meaningful compromise with all that we preserve.
I guess my only other question, because I have no objections to anything that you're showing, except for the 3 windows. Are they going to have an intermediate volume?
Like a
The
stud
downstairs?
in between. Yeah.
The windows that we found are single casement windows that we're just putting in buying stock windows. However, so yes.
Okay.
That's to say yes.
And these are all casements?
Yes.
I'm okay with that on the addition.
All right. The one thing which you ought to indicate is that typically, actually, it goes like this. That'll indicate where it's hinged.
Oh.
And the question on something like this is always, what do you do? It just, it's a dashed line to indicate, for example, double hungs are pretty
Right.
straightforward, but
Right.
casement usually, indicate you have where.
Yeah, which way, this way?
Hinge.
Thank you.
Did we ever see any cut sheets on the windows or doors here on the rear elevation, since the front windows used to be up? There
We
you go.
have those.
Yes, we said, we did see
No,
that,
we haven't
yes.
seen them yet, though, have
We
we?
did see that, yes, we did.
We have those,
Can we insert
We have-
anything else?
we have
Oh,
the
we
same
took
ones
that.
without markings. We just have
Right.
pictures without markings of the same type. So,
And what's there, remind me, what's there now? It's 2 over
in the back,
in the front.
the front is two.
Oh, are you replacing the ones on the front now? No,
The
sorry.
ones in the front are staying.
And
But
this
We
was
we are
the-
going to.
Well, that would be the other thing on the drawing, just clearly indicate what is existing to remain, because, it's kind of hard to tell.
Sure. Well, they did a thing.
You were going to remove the storm windows, I remember, on the front.
We're
That's
gonna
right.
replace the
That's right.
storm windows.
Or replace them,
Yeah, which we're still planning on doing.
But in kind, right?
In kind, well, probably not. Right now, they're triple track, aluminum storm windows. And I talked to the woman at the window, and I was having a hard time actually sourcing those from what she finished. And she said, well, what she did was, we have a cut sheet for it, but I'm not gonna show it to you, because she just took a picture of hers, which was, she just has like an actual storm frame,
Mhm.
that is just the entire,
A single piece.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's custom made for each one. It's a
Yeah.
single piece.
Yep.
Talk
They're
to my neighbor, Peter Meisler. He got replacements, Meisler, I didn't know this building. He got replacement, the storm windows, the triple track types.
But wait, what he's proposing is probably
That's
a
better.
better option.
Yeah, these are
Well,
just
we don't know.
pop out.
Right, if you're proposing a single
Single.
storm that you lift, in the spring, I take off the glass, I put on the
That's
screen.
Mhm.
So you're gonna see more of the window, but then that's a custom.
True, yeah,
Right.
and you'll have more screen and more
Mhm.
storm, that's right.
And your
Without
windows,
it-
as I recall from our site visit, they are operable,
Yeah.
up and down, so
Right.
that's a plus.
Yeah.
But that's a custom
Sure.
issues, yeah.
That's, we're at.
So are you doing them, would you consider doing them out of wood rather than aluminum? Since you're retaining your wood windows, as long as you're taking down those triple
These are
tracks?
aluminum. I mean, is that, if that's a suggestion, that you can come out of wood rather than aluminum?
Well,
She said that aluminum, they
the
come in
issue is,
colors we can
yeah,
choose from.
the issue is that the wood pop in, pop
Right.
out type of windows are historically correct.
Right.
I don't know if you run across it, but usually they had little tabs up front. You slipped it over, swung it down, and then the eye hook down at the bottom.
We consider, we haven't done.
And
There
it's
are-
usually pretty straightforward until you have about 25 coats of paint and it doesn't fit.
Well, the reason I raise that is because you're looking at 4 windows, right?
Right.
It's not
It's not-
a house full of windows, and it may not be cost prohibitive on that side. I mean, maybe that's something that you can investigate a little bit before the public hearing, or maybe you
Okay.
can think about it and decide you want to hold that piece out of this approval for now. There are a number of places around the village that have either new ones or reconstructions of what had been on the house. I'm thinking of 15 Academy. There's a couple on Fair Street that have the old storms. And then also, they're not in yet though, but a recent applicant, if you look at the file for 56 Paulding, their architect sourced these slide on and off
Okay.
storms.
LePage.
LePage, I think, yeah, they were from
Thank you.
Canada.
Canada, yeah.
I have no idea what the
The
cost was,
residents
but
or
it's worth looking.
The
at.
windows are from Canada, yeah. Not the applicants. We don't discriminate.
You have something against me?
Not at all.
I think that those were part of the entire window. 'Cause
They
those
may
were all
have
window
been, but 15
windows.
Academy Street were our actual storms.
Okay,
Yeah.
super.
Okay,
So,
is the applicant ready for a public hearing? Do I have a
Yeah,
motion?
I move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing. 24th.
24.
That's when we're having tonight, so I may as well package it all together.
Great.
So it looks like our workshop is a voting session.
Oh, boy.
Kathleen, you second?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you got a couple options. I've talked to your roofing contractor and see what it is.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just looking, signing Beers door, okay, it is marked on, yes, sir.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna mark on these copies that you brought these in on the 10th. So differentiate them. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Congratulations on keeping your baby asleep. Well done.
Oh.
Amazing.
That was a miracle. Yeah, sweet.
Maybe even Jimmy, nor an architect.
We know you, Mr. Florence, but you probably haven't met everyone.
Go for it.
Yeah, Phil,
Hello.
all right?
Yeah.
Nice to see you
Andrea,
again.
nice to meet you.
That's it.
Good to see you, sir. Sean Conway.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Mr.
I'm Bill
Mr. Florence
Liston.
is a former interim village attorney.
Okay,
That's an interesting program.
huh?
Really interesting program.
That's the concept of the one of the.
All right. So who's going to do the talking?
Not me.
All right.
Oh, and I'm sorry, how rude of us.
Lane.
I've met you before, Al's met you before, but no one else has.
Lane
Lane?
DeMiro.
Lane, Sean, good to meet
Carolyn.
you.
It's like, I think I'm
Yes, last time you were.
Probably him.
Andrea.
Okay, so, let me see, do we have multiple copies?
I
Yes,
think
we
there should be
do.
6 copies there. And then I have some other updated information.
Oops, and this is the cover sheet.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, why don't you take us through the proposed work?
Let me hand you these also, which are just some additional information. basically outlining what the intention is
Okay.
and the materials we're going to use. The proposal is to convert the existing upstairs into a transient unit, basically bed and breakfast.
Okay.
Two uses.
Uses and, you know, anything on the interior really is not our purview, so.
So regarding the exterior, then, the plans you have show existing conditions as photographs,
Uh-huh.
and then proposed conditions.
Okay.
The front of the building, the existing conditions remain, from an appearance point of view, virtually identical to what they are now. There's no change to the door leading upstairs. There will be a change to the 3 windows as far as size goes. We're proposing the same style, which is a double hung window, which is pretty much every window here on Main Street.
It looks like there are muntins on these though.
Maybe on the drawings, but again, that's just right, doesn't make any difference.
And you've
which
got
way we go with this.
new lighting as well over the door.
Okay.
And a new light over the front door, yes. There's also going to be fire code requirement for a lockbox next to the front door, and also include that.
Okay, now as far as the windows, are they getting wider?
Approximately
Because
2 inches wider than the
Okay.
existing windows.
All right, which means that you're gonna have to change the casings.
Yeah, the opening has, the rough opening has to change.
Okay. I
But
think-
also to trim around it.
Trim around it, right? Gives us the opportunity to.
Right, it'll be a different trim.
Yeah.
Right. So, I guess the issue that was raised before is that the windows as they are now, as the casings are now, is what is usually called a picture frame.
It's a flat casing that goes over there.
Right. And whereas historically, if you look at the photograph, there's a sill. There may or may not be an apron.
Well, and Al, in our
Well,
review of the
right.
last proposal, what was represented and what was approved were casing trim that was proud of the sitting above the siding, and what is installed is flat, in roughly the same plane.
No, well, I took a look during my cigarette break. And basically what it is that you had the casings and then the siding was running to
Yeah,
the side of
exactly,
the casing.
exactly. I'm saying that in a different way. Yes.
But, you know, that's the way it should be.
Well, that's
And it should
basically
be
the way all
probably a little bit
casings are.
thicker,
Right.
so that it, you know,
Wanted to reveal more against the siding.
yeah.
Exactly. But you're
Um,
having the opportunity to do that anyway, since you're changing the opening.
Right, no, I mean,
Yeah.
you have to buy new casing for it. It doesn't matter if it's
Right.
5/4 or
Right,
twice, or
right,
if
right.
it's 3/4.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the front, let's just, okay, so on the front, the casings are being changed, and we're gonna change the casings, so it's a little bit thicker, and we have a sill.
Well, all double hung windows have a sill. But some of these windows on Main Street have an apron that goes below the sill.
Okay.
Which in our case, the apron is a flat casing. But you're looking for an apron that has more of a profile.
No, we're looking for a
Yeah.
sill that has more of a profile. In other words,
Okay, well,
a
the
sill-
sill on these windows is 1.5 inches. This particular window sticks out 1.5 inches from the side.
Okay. The existing sill, because I.
No, not the ones that are there, the ones that we're proposing to use.
Oh, okay.
The sill is,
The sill
sticks out
does
prouder.
in fact.
Right.
So it looks like what had been there before changes, long before the current owner, were a deeper sill, and it looks like there was a hood. You're not proposing a hood at this point. And you're right that it's very difficult to tell if there were muntins or not.
Are you looking at this picture? Yeah, I can't.
Well, I'm looking at a copy of it.
Yeah.
Could we see that one actually?
Yeah, this one's blown up and is even.
That one's a little
blurrier than that
clearer.
one.
Oh, that may actually, because of the contrast, be better. I remember this picture from the last round. Yeah, you can't tell where it is.
So are you gonna have an apron below the sill?
If that's your preference, we really don't care. I mean, if that's what you would like, we'll put an apron.
Well, the historical photograph doesn't have an apron. So
then no apron.
let's leave it off.
May I see
No.
that?
Okay. The rear.
Are you not, I'm sorry, Al, before you move off the front, you're not proposing taking off
I'm
the
not proposing any other
parapet?
changes.
Okay, so it's just the way it's drawn. The parapet remains.
Like parapet remains, there's no change to the elevations, height of the building, footprint of the building.
Just double checking, just the way it's drawn.
All right, I guess let's go through this, because what we have to do is do the secret determination. Okay, so on the back,
The back, right now has, I think, 3 windows in the existing structure, a door, and a wooden walkway that leads to a set of stairs that leads to grade.
mhm.
So what we're proposing is to eliminate the 3 windows in the back, move the door from one side of the building to more or less the center of the building, extend that walkway, to accommodate the door, and go down the steps with the steps in the same place as the existing ones.
If I remember correctly, the lighting on the rear elevation is going to be motion sensor,
Well, we could do
emergency
motion
lighting,
sensor, which is fine. I mean, it doesn't have to be motion sensor,
or
but
just emergency.
emergency lighting
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
battery backup.
Okay.
Okay, and it says replace it, are you gonna replace it with a new wooden stairway or
Well, the
previous?
one that's there could be reused. It's pretty rickety and it doesn't look good, but our intention is to replace it, yes.
So what happened, the last drawing, it was represented as steel?
Well, when you wrote that little email to me, I checked the code, and there's a lot of codes that cover this particular building because it's an existing building, it's an historical district, it's a mixed-use occupancy, and it's a Class 5 construction. So you add all of that together, and you almost don't know where to look in the code, but in the existing code, the fire escape, which we're considering as fire escape, can be built of wood. So we're gonna keep the
I'm
existing
asking because
way
the
it is.
drawing
No, the
last
new
round
drawing,
had
though,
steel,
has
so
it as
now
wood.
you're going to wood.
Right, and we put that on the new
And
drawing.
did you check with the building inspector?
No. I
That'd be a
didn't.
good idea.
Well, it's, okay, but I mean, it is code allowable, so.
So, well,
I
here's the
even
issue, the
cited the
reason I
code.
raise it is to try to attempt, in an attempt to save you time. If you ask for wood, and then building inspector tells you that you need steel, we're gonna have to look at a drawing for steel. That's what I was trying to communicate to you
Okay.
in the email, is that you make sure
I'll
you
speak to Bill about
understand,
that.
make sure you understand, so you don't have to spend your time coming back again.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Now, how about the door, what is the door gonna be made of?
It'll be a wooden door that actually matches the one that's on the front.
So the door that's on the front here as drawn is the type of door that you're.
Yeah, actually, look at the picture. The drawing might not be 100% accurate, but it's pretty close. I mean, the exact spacing of everything might not be right, but there's a picture on this which shows the front door as it is,
So you're keeping the existing door?
keeping the existing door.
Okay.
No change to the exterior hardware on the door either.
Does anybody have any other questions concerning the rear?
So the door stays the same.
No, on the rear.
On the rear, the door is going to match the front door.
Oh, I'm
which
sorry,
stays the same.
okay.
And the front door is.
Go right, because you're moving the location of the door.
Stay.
Yeah. Okay.
So the big, it may just be a drawing issue. In the images, you've got the big fans. I assume they don't go away. You need them
No,
for
they
your
have to
kitchen.
stay.
Yeah. So is there space for, this looks, it's hard to tell from the image. This looks like your vent goes back several feet. Do you have room to put a doorway and extend, a door that swings out
Yes.
and extend your walkway across
Yeah,
and
because
still
when
have
you're
your
looking at
fans?
that fan, it doesn't actually, I mean, it.
Well, maybe it's closer to the
Right,
corner.
it's closer to the corner, so it's
Okay.
not going to conflict with either door
I think it's-
operation or the walkway.
It's just, now that you point that out, I see it. It's an optical illusion that makes it seem
Right.
like it's back further, but it is here on the corner. So when someone's coming down the new walkway, they're gonna be closer to this fan than it seems in the image.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions on the rear elevation?
And the only other thing that's going to be changed on the rear is the siding. which is the entire buildings will be changed to match the existing siding on the front.
All right,
Which is wood?
wood.
It's a wood siding, yes.
Okay.
All right, side elevations. Elevation on the right.
Well, the one from Church Street really you can't even see any part of the building. You know, if you're walking down and looking over because the floor shop is in the way.
What is, this area, hatched area is adjoining building.
Right, that's why
Is
you
there any
can't see.
space? Is there any space?
You know, there's maybe some space in there, but if it is, it's so
So minimal.
Okay.
minimal.
Okay, I guess my question is, what is the material that is there? Because obviously that's not going to change.
No, it's not. It's a wood, but you can't see it.
Okay.
They just never went over it with the vinyl.
You can't. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no,
Okay.
there's no
Can't get in there.
access to that area.
Okay.
Just pointing out, you still have steel walkway listed on this drawing?
On the new drawing?
Yes, proposed elevation right, steel walkway and
okay.
stairs to
Well, I'll
replace
change that.
existing wooden.
Okay, and the same thing is true on the left elevation where hatched area is an adjoining building.
That little pizza shop is there. You can't see it. You can see some if you walk down Garden Street and
Yeah.
stand in the rear of the parking lot, and you can see part of that.
On your
Well-
left big toe and lean.
Yeah, and you know, crank your neck up to try to get a look at it.
You gotta trust us to do
That never
Um,
happens in Cold Spring.
Okay, I guess the other question has to do with so, I think that while we appreciate all of this other information, it's not really required for our application. Just trying to save you some money here.
So the trim also at the roof line continues the trim line that's at the front. Completely,
Right.
take off all that. Fabulous blue vinyl.
Okay, and the windows are being replaced also, all of these?
All the windows will be the same size,
Well, these are different from.
not the ones on the bottom. We're not doing anything to the bottom windows.
Oh, existing window unchanged, these two existing
The
windows
two
to
existing
remain.
Yeah, they just don't look the way they do.
They also have very limited visibility.
Anybody have any questions? Do I have a determination of secret status?
Yeah, I move that it be declared type 2 for secret because it's a commercial building of under 4,000 square feet and minor alterations.
I have a second.
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Also, I guess the question I have for the board is that, do we feel we need a public hearing on this?
I don't, so.
No.
I don't.
No, it's not a major change to the
Okay.
structure.
Do we want to vote on this tonight?
I don't see any reason why we wouldn't.
Okay.
Unless, I mean, the only element that is of concern to me is the lack of clarity on what that fire escape needs to be. I mean, I asked the building inspector to advise you, because there were some drawings that were steel and some were wood. And I don't think that we have clarity on that, but I'm happy to approve everything else.
Well, why don't we approve it as submitted, Ward?
And then, yes,
And then if it has to change, then we'll come back.
Do we, for this outdoor light, for the
Are you
decorative
looking
light?
at for lights?
This was attached to the drawing. The emergency light is in here too.
Well, the first, let's go over the elevations, because I know that I'm gonna have to mark it up if we're gonna vote on it tonight. So, new casings, replace existing windows. All right, we have a new light, all right?
One new light in the front over the front door.
which we'll get to. An emergency lighting, that looks like sort of a typical box.
It is, I
Yeah,
put a
there's a-
picture of it in
Yeah,
the
it's in
little
the
packet.
packet.
Yeah, it's in the packet, there's not a lot of choice in
It's the
emergency.
six,
right?
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't think you're gonna find any historically accurate emergency lighting.
So the lighting we'll get to.
practical.
The lockbox, replace existing signs to match the front, door to match the front, replace existing wooden stands. Okay, so there's no changes there. Now, all of the windows should be the same, with the sill,
Yes.
no apron.
And they're wood.
For a wood aluminum clad, or is vinyl clad acceptable or not?
Not on-
Okay,
not
so
as
then it would be
much
aluminum
national.
clad.
But that's a great improvement from what's there.
Yes, it is.
Also, Jimmy, the regaining the siding on the back, having the blue go away and match the front is a huge improvement. Yeah, so thank you for, I didn't expect you to come back to that so fast, so thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess there's really nothing else. So let's talk about the lighting. Sean, you want to take us through what we had as far as the lighting?
Yeah, well, there's one, on the front facade, there's one that hangs over the door. On the rear facade, there's two that kind of hang, I don't know, I guess above eye level, but not, but they seem to be kind of along the walkway.
One is going to be mounted on the building, which will light left to right as you walk down the walkway. And the other one is actually going to be mounted on the concrete portion near the stairs to illuminate specifically the stairs.
Oh, yeah, I was talking about the decorative lights, not the
Oh, the
emergency
decorative
lights.
lights, okay.
Yeah. Because I think that on the sheet provided,
The outdoor lighting ideas.
the outdoor lighting idea sheet, I think anything from this top row, I don't think is appropriate to have a single one hanging over a door.
It's too fancy.
The center light or the second row, actually any of the three in the second row I think would be more appropriate.
I would agree.
And probably actually one of the either the middle one or the first one.
This one might be the least offensive because the bulb is actually
Hidden,
inside of it,
concealed
right, in one
inside
of
the dome.
Yeah.
Well, and there are a number of those around the district.
Right.
Yeah.
That sort of early commercial looking,
Right.
yieldy lighty.
My
Yield
daughter has them in
lighting.
her kitchen.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
They'd be cool in
Okay.
the kitchen, I don't know.
Oh,
All right,
Depends on
so
where
we're-
they are.
We're talking about right in the middle of
No
the
counting.
middle guy.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think if they were going to be used on the rear facade as well, and you just, for the sake of consistency, you want to use the same light,
Yeah, we'll match them.
it would work, but I think they might just need to be hung a little bit higher than you have them drawn because
Yeah.
the shape of this one, you want it to be kind of above your head, not at your eye level. Because
Right.
it's a down light as opposed to
Okay.
a ambient light.
And also that
Well,
one,
then also, if it sticks out, somebody may.
You also don't want to smack your face on it, but that's what the emergency lights are for.
well, also inside, are there, I can't remember, are there apartments in 126? I mean, this is also, when you
There's-
think about how the light gets cast, that's a better option.
There's a second floor apartment in 126.
So it's just a more neighborly light too.
Right, but these, when we talked about it last week, the decorative lights were gonna be on a timer, and then the emergency lights were gonna be on a motion sensor, so potentially there would be times when there was no light at all.
That's correct, and also, depending on which interpretation of the code, when the door is open, the lights have to come on.
Right.
So whether, the motion detector, my personal belief is, I don't really like motion detectors because you have a lot of false ons and false offs. And if the purpose of the emergency lights is just emergency lighting, then door activated to me is better
Right.
than
Oh, yeah.
the motion detector.
Well, because the emergency light would be for exiting, not entering. No one's gonna be running into this.
Well, no one's
in an
gonna enter this one.
emergency.
No, that's strictly an exit, emergency exit door.
Right, so if it's tripped by the door, then that would be sufficient to keep it lit.
So people don't, I'm pretty sure we said this last time, but just making sure, people go in and out through the front. You're not having
Yes,
people
in and
enter
out
from
through
their
the front.
cars and go up that back staircase.
No, no.
Well, no, that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the application. The application, the only thing that changes on the front is that there's a projecting sill with no apron. The lights are the center one as indicated here. And that's it. Those are the, and on the side elevations is basically it's the same thing as far as the casing and the
And
wood sill.
the lights move up somewhat in the back. To relocate a little higher.
So, that's the application is modified. Do I have a motion
Not
to?
yet, because we have one more outstanding thing. But when Jimmy was here last time, he talked about 3 options for signs, and now I don't see any signs in the application.
Right, they're not part of this application.
So do you intend to put signs up for this new business?
Ultimately, they'll be.
Yeah.
We're looking around the neighborhood, and we're just trying to see what the neighborhood's been allowed to do. And if you have or haven't reviewed the neighbors' signs.
There are lots of signs all around the district that we've looked at. So the options that Jimmy laid out were on the facade, on the front windows, and on the glass of the door. I think with this door staying, you don't have on the glass of the door option anymore, because they're tiny windows that stay on that door, right?
Right.
Mhm. So that one's
One
out.
center fixture above the door.
Right, so we're left with
Yeah.
a center wall-mounted sign, and then signs on the window
Of the restaurant.
of the restaurant that direct you to the hotel, to the accommodation. That was, your client mentioned those 2 last time. That's why I raise it now. Because you may as well if you're gonna do it, you may as well get it over with while you're here and not have to come back.
Well, is there a particular shape or style of the sign?
We don't deal with content.
No, I mean
No.
like regular OG or, you know.
Yeah, I think,
Exactly.
we're already late.
Yeah.
Why don't we
If that's
let
a
them
separate
figure out?
application.
Yeah, let them figure out exactly what they want.
But that would be, to Mr. Florence's point, we don't care what your content is. You can have whatever you like, but if it's wall-mounted, we need to know how it's getting attached to the building, what its material is. If it's vinyl applied, if it's, currently, if it's smaller than 4 feet, you can hang it. If it's 4 square feet.
4 square
If it's
feet.
larger than 4 square feet, we look at it. So for example, Blue Olive was one we looked at in a review, and it was approved as proposed. Smaller signs in the district, we haven't looked at. That's just the way the current ordinance reads.
Across the street.
That's right, across from,
Hudson Hills
next to Hudson
has
Hills.
a sign on the wall thing holding fortune.
Yeah, that was a long time ago we looked at that one.
So we want to be, we don't want to be where there can't be any sign. We want to have it not competitive use of building. Part of the whole thing, being able to demonstrate to the public what would happen if they walk in something.
Well, when you're ready, we're here to do signs.
All right, so
There's the bond.
do I have a motion on the application as modified?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Everybody?
Yes,
I have a question. We've been selected by the Human Rights Commission of the State of New York to put a ring that conforms with their requirements for access from village property to village property.
The trustees reported on this last night. Has Marie got back to you?
No.
So you'll be happy to hear what they reported last night. Everybody will. and you should obviously follow up with the mayor or the deputy mayor on this.
I'm the one who reported to him.
So there were several in that block that were chosen to receive a letter. Exactly, the clock shop, PCNR, right? So the mayor, and this is me reporting to you what was reported in the public session last evening. So the mayor and deputy mayor met with the gentleman whose name I don't remember, who sent the letter, Mr. Jacobs. And Mr. Jacobs said that what would be required of property owners is to write a letter demonstrating why you think you can either accomplish or not accomplish. And they talked about particular examples like the pole in front of the entrance at Doug's Pretty Good Pub. Right, so there's you can't, that's a structural support pole. If we take that out, the building falls. So we can't change that entrance. With, for example, Cape Cod leather, we can't accommodate the rise run that would be needed to meet a ramp there. So what it turned, the sense that I had from the trustees' report last night was that it was a much less punitive approach in person than it was in writing. I think they were very strongly worded letters, but they reported last night that they felt that they were able to speak with the man and that he communicated that if a reasonable attempt was demonstrated and reasonable demonstration of limitations, that would be sufficient. So follow up with the mayor on that one.
Let me just suggest, put in your mind's eye, just imagine that it would satisfy the ADA requirements if we had it in front of the outside decor around the
Or porch, or, not porch.
porch.
The dining
Deck,
area?
the-
The dining area, yeah.
yeah. But we'd have to put something that's like 3.5 feet wide.
Right.
We'd have to go maybe 10 or 12 feet.
Yeah, exactly.
All the way up to get to the center. We'd have to have a railing on the damn thing.
Exactly.
And you'd have to take it in and out whenever somebody came by.
Exactly. That was the conversation they had. And the other point that was raised with him was the fact that, hang on, the other point that was raised with him was the fact that why this block? Why your block? Because that is the least steep block of all. So why did the commission focus in on this block? And the response that they got was that, well, it would be impossible to do it on all the other blocks, so we picked the block where we thought it was a possibility. So that, I think, gives some kind of an indication of how they're looking at it.
The thing that you have to remember is that you have to have a little creativity with what you're talking about. And there are a lot of different ways that historic districts deal with ADA requirements. For example, the height, it's a 1 inch, you need a foot of ramp for every inch of difference. But the issues that everybody has is that the sidewalk slopes. So essentially, where you're entering with the ramp, makes a difference. So
You don't go on the downside and try to go up. You
Right.
go on the upside and go up farther.
I mean, we have ramps all the way down the length. So follow up. I mean, they're waiting for a response letter, but I think the sense of the trustees was that the meeting with the gentleman had a positive outcome and they feel more comfortable than they did prior to actually having conversation with him. And I know they were planning to communicate to the property owners, to the business owners.
The business owner doesn't own the property on which it has to be constructed and to which it will.
That was another part of the conversation that the village owns, it's village-owned property with a privately owned
So,
entrance.
2 or 3 solutions to that. One is let the village do it. Second, which would be very popular among the shop owners. The second would be that the village would enter into some kind of an arrangement about the use and occupancy of the blocks that are created, because it's quite clear that the surveys come up to the block.
Well, the property line's all over the place, down Main Street.
I am vaguely familiar with some of them, but I'm just talking about 3 that I have personal knowledge of, and all 3 of them have been picked. So you got 2 owners who have done it, or 2 are done, and 2 are done,
Well, the impression that I had from the trustees' report last night was that did not seem as if there would be a need to actually construct ramps, that the property owners would have room to state why it was not a possibility. So follow up with the mayor, they have the direct conversation.
Oh, you know,
There are all sorts of reasons that it's restrictive, is the answer.
Right, we did this in Peekskill was a case.
And this-
And so I.
Oh, this is like the
They
size of
were-
the windows.
They talked reasonable, they acted differently.
Well, so follow up, they have the direct
Okay.
conversation.
Thank you very much. All I want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but make them aware of it.
Because you're going to, you're going to have a historic front, and you're not going to have a
Thank
historic.
you, Jimmy.
You're gonna have a
Bye, Lynn.
half-page contrivance.
Yes, exactly.
Isn't that a nice way to say it?
Well, the only thing, Bill, and final word on this is that ADA has been around for a long time, and it's not going away.
I know. And, it's in the face of what you're trying to get done.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the other thing to keep in mind is that typically they don't force you to comply unless you're actually making
Stubborn.
changes.
Well,
No,
I mean,
unless
if
you're
you-
actually making changes.
If you follow it through the logical conclusion, let's say you put a ramp on one of those buildings.
Yeah.
Well, so then you're gonna need a wider doorway, so then you're changing the entire facade. I mean, obviously, it cascades. So at some point, there has to be an accommodation that meets somewhere in the middle with the district and that.
Existing buildings need to make a reasonable effort.
Reasonable effort, yes.
Reasonable effort, that's what
I know
the law
that
says.
is word.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Night.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good night,
Okay.
Jimmy.